Breaking, King Charles just ended Keir Starmer's career. And what happened at Buckingham Palace 6 hours ago will change British politics forever. This morning at 9:47 a.m, the King summoned the Prime Minister for an emergency meeting. No warning, no protocol, just a royal command that shook Downing Street to its core. The message was clear. His Majesty requires your immediate presence on a matter of grave constitutional importance. Starmer arrived pale and visibly shaken. What happened next hasn't occurred in over 300 years. If you want the full story the mainstream media won't touch, hit subscribe. Because what I'm about to show you will make your blood boil. Inside that palace room, King Charles stood instead of sitting, breaking all protocol, and he delivered a message that left Starmer speechless. Prime Minister, your government's treatment of British military veterans while housing asylum seekers in luxury hotels has crossed a line I cannot ignore. Then came the hammer. I am invoking my constitutional authority to suspend all new asylum processing until Parliament addresses the veteran housing crisis. The room went silent. Starmer's face turned bright red, and according to two palace sources, he actually shouted at the King, "Your Majesty, with respect, you have no such authority. This is 2025, not 1625. Private secretaries stood frozen. One aide later said he'd never witnessed such a breach in 30 years of royal service. Within hours, Buckingham Palace released an official statement confirming the royal ban. His Majesty has exercised powers to ensure the welfare of those who serve the Crown takes precedence over political convenience. Conservative MP Jacob Rees-Mogg called it the most significant assertion of royal authority since 1708. But here's what makes this truly explosive. King Charles didn't just give an order. He brought evidence. A thick folder containing photographs and testimonies of 47 veterans currently living on British streets. One image showed a former Royal Marine sleeping in a doorway 2 miles from Parliament. The King placed the photos on the table in front of Starmer and said, "Explain to me how this is acceptable in the nation I serve." Starmer had no answer. His hands trembled as he shuffled through the papers, trying to talk about budget constraints and policy complexity. That's when the King delivered the final blow. Prime Minister, when policy becomes an excuse for cruelty, it ceases to be policy, it becomes betrayal. Let me show you why this matters. James Richardson, 54, former sergeant who lost his leg in Afghanistan, was evicted 3 weeks ago. He's been sleeping in his car outside a veterans charity in Manchester, queuing every morning for a hot meal and maybe a shower. "I gave my leg for this country," he said through tears, "and now my country won't give me a roof." Sarah Mitchell, former army medic, 3 tours in Afghanistan, living in a mouldy flat in Birmingham with exposed wiring and a collapsed bathroom ceiling with her 2 young children. "I treated wounded soldiers under fire and I can't get a safe home for my kids." What was it all for? Meanwhile, asylum seekers stay in 4-star hotels across London, Birmingham and Manchester, continental breakfasts, housekeeping, private rooms with bathrooms, costing taxpayers £8 million per day. The Britannia Hotel in Manchester, Holiday Inn in Birmingham, Park Plaza in London, all converted into asylum housing while veterans queue at food banks. The contrast is so extreme that even long-time Labour supporters are calling it a national disgrace. But here's what nobody saw coming. King Charles broke 70 years of royal protocol and directly intervened in government policy. At 11:30 a.m, he delivered what historians are already calling the most significant royal intervention since the abdication crisis. Parliament has forgotten that sovereignty carries responsibility. When British servicemen sleep rough while foreign nationals enjoy comforts denied to our own people, the Constitutional Compact demands action. Palace insiders say Charles has been receiving hundreds of letters from veterans for months. Handwritten pleas describing homelessness, poverty and despair. One letter was read aloud during a Privy Council meeting. It described a veteran attempting suicide after being denied emergency housing while an asylum hotel opened 2 miles away. The King's voice cracked reading the final line. "Your Majesty, I fought for Britain. Why won't Britain fight for me?" Think about the timing. This happened during Remembrance Week, the most sacred period in Britain's military calendar. Veterans wearing poppies, attending memorials, honouring fallen friends, and right in the middle of this national moment of respect, the King drops a constitutional bomb defending those who served. Professor Catherine Hayden from the Institute for Government said, "The King has turned British patriotism against his own government. Every poppy worn this week becomes a silent protest. That's not politics, that's political destruction." The fallout was immediate. Within 90 minutes, the pound dropped 2.3% against the dollar. Markets panicked about constitutional stability. £4.7 billion wiped from the FTSE 100 in one trading session. 17 Labour MPs publicly broke with Starmer. Former Home Secretary Yvette Cooper released a statement. The Prime Minister has caused an avoidable constitutional crisis through stubborn refusal to help British veterans. 3 MPs resigned the Labour whip entirely. Lisa Nandy, Member of Parliament for Wigan, told colleagues, "My constituents are asking why I'm still defending this government. I don't have an answer." Social media exploded. Charles is right. Trended globally for 14 hours with over 3.2 million views. Starmer must go hit 1.8 million by lunch. TikTok videos comparing veteran homelessness to asylum hotel luxury got 40 million views in 6 hours. Protests erupted in 17 cities by 3 p.m. In London, 40,000 people gathered outside Parliament waving Union Jacks, chanting, "Defend the Crown, defend our veterans." Manchester, Birmingham, Glasgow, Cardiff, Newcastle, thousands more hit the streets. These weren't organised rallies. These were spontaneous explosions of public fury. Inside Number 10, pure chaos, ministers screaming about who to blame and who should resign first. Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner allegedly slammed a folder on the table and walked out yelling, "I'm not going down with this ship." Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson broke down crying, "We're finished." The voters will never forgive us. WhatsApp groups called Leadership Transition Team are plotting Starmer's removal right now. The question isn't if they'll move against him, it's which day this week they pull the trigger. Starmer looked rattled at Prime Minister's questions today, fumbling responses, reading frantically from notes that kept sliding off his box. One MP described him as a man who knows his career is ending in real time. Opposition leader Rishi Sunak went for the kill. Does the Prime Minister believe British veterans deserve less consideration than illegal migrants, or does he simply not care about either? Starmer had no answer, but here's the part that could finish Labour completely. Leaked Home Office documents show Starmer's advisers warned him 3 months ago that veteran homelessness was a political time bomb. A 47-page memo from August 2025 laid out the exact scenario now playing out. The memo warned public anger over asylum hotel spending while veterans remain homeless is reaching breaking point. Royal concerns have been communicated through private channels. Failure to address this risks constitutional intervention. If these documents are real, Starmer deliberately ignored warnings from his own government. He was told veterans were suffering. He was told housing asylum seekers in hotels would cause outrage. He was told King Charles was personally concerned. And he did nothing. That proves this wasn't a mistake. It was a deliberate choice to abandon veterans while protecting his immigration agenda. Constitutional expert Vernon Bogdanor said, if the Prime Minister received explicit warnings about royal concerns and dismissed them, he violated the protocols that govern Crown-government relations. That's not bad politics. That's constitutional malpractice. Meanwhile, Nigel Farage is seizing the moment with perfect timing. At a Reform UK rally in Birmingham this afternoon, he declared, King Charles has reminded us what leadership looks like. While politicians play games, our king stands with those who served. If that's not British values, I don't know what is. The crowd cheered for over 2 minutes. Then Farage dropped his killer line. They call us extreme for wanting to house British veterans before foreign nationals, but well, if that's extreme, then His Majesty the King is extreme too. The political move was brilliant. By aligning Reform UK with the King's position, Farage made opposing his policies look like opposing the monarchy itself. The polls tell a brutal story. Ipsos Mori shows Labour collapsing to 23%, their lowest since 2019. Conservatives hold at 28%. Reform UK surged to 31%. The first time Farage's party has topped national polling. In red wall seats, Labour won last election. Reform UK now leads by 12 points. In military towns like Aldershot, Colchester and Catterick, Reform support hit 47%. For the first time in modern British history, Reform UK isn't a protest movement. They're the most popular party in Britain. Farage isn't just winning the argument, he's winning the country. But there's one more bombshell that could reshape everything. Senior Reform UK sources say Nigel Farage has been in private communication with members of the royal household for months. Not with King Charles directly, that would be impossible, but with former private secretaries and royal advisers who maintain close palace ties. These sources claim Farage was given advanced warning that royal patience with Labour's veteran policies was finished. If true, that means Farage positioned Reform UK to ride this crisis weeks before it exploded. While Starmer ignored warnings, Farage was preparing to ride the storm straight into Downing Street. The next 72 hours will determine Britain's future. Starmer faces a confidence vote Thursday that he may actually lose if enough Labour MPs rebel or abstain. His government falls and Britain heads to snap elections. King Charles must decide whether to use more royal powers if Parliament refuses to act on veteran housing. Constitutional experts are whispering about possibilities nobody wants to say out loud. Could the King refuse to sign legislation? Could he dismiss ministers? Could he dissolve Parliament itself? Reform UK is preparing what sources call the most aggressive campaign in modern British history, targeting every seat Labour holds. Campaign posters are already printing. Homeless veterans on one side, luxury asylum hotels on the other. The caption reads, "Who does Labour serve?" This is no longer about whether Starmer survives, it's whether the entire British political establishment survives the earthquake King Charles just triggered. Britain is watching a constitutional crisis that makes Brexit look like a minor argument. This will be studied for decades, as the moment the monarchy took back powers, everyone thought had vanished centuries ago. At the centre stands Starmer, looking isolated, desperate and finished. History will remember this as the day British politics split into before and after. Not since Edward VIII abdicated in 1936 has Britain faced such a constitutional crisis. This could be bigger than the expenses scandal, bigger than Brexit, bigger than anything in living memory. The last time a British monarch challenged Parliament with such force, it led to civil war. We're not there yet. But the constitutional foundations that kept Britain stable for 3 centuries are cracking before our eyes. Cambridge historian Dr. David Starkey said tonight, "We are watching the death of one constitutional order and the birth of another. What replaces it will define Britain for the next 100 years." So here's what I want to know. Did Keir Starmer just destroy his career by challenging the king? Or did King Charles overstep his authority and give Starmer the fight he needs? Will Nigel Farage actually become Britain's next Prime Minister because of this crisis? And here's the question nobody in Westminster wants to ask. If the King can suspend asylum processing with a royal order, what else can he do? Leave your answer in the comments. I read every single one and your voice matters, because this isn't about politicians anymore. This is about what kind of country Britain becomes. If this story shocked you, we'll share it. The mainstream media won't show you the WhatsApp messages, the leaked documents, or the panic behind closed doors, but we will. Tomorrow, I'm breaking the full story about what really happened in that Buckingham Palace meeting and why 3 cabinet ministers are writing resignation letters right now. We're also looking into claims that palace officials have been working with opposition parties for weeks. This constitutional crisis is far from over. In fact, it's only just beginning.